Honoring our veterans, well, tonight we've got a group that have come from across the state over from the Detroit area, Royal Oak, and Deb Hollis and Russell Levine are here to talk about the Michigan World War II Memorial. So without taking any more of their time, please welcome Deb and Russell.
Thank you for coming tonight. I always like to start by asking how many World War II veterans we have in our audience. If you could stand up. I'm asking a lot. Thank you. We thank you all for your service. We started back in 2008 as a group called Honor Flight Michigan. Just by a show of hands, how many of you have heard of Honor Flight Michigan? There you go. We were a group, for those of you who are not familiar with us, who flew World War II veterans on day trips to Washington, D.C. to see their World War II memorial. And we spent 4 years, we did 33 flights, and we flew about 1,400 Michigan World War II veterans. It was important for us to get them to that memorial to see what had been built in their honor. So through that 4-year period, we came to know hundreds of World War II veterans, and they became like family to us. And they became very important to us, and recognizing them and honoring them became a big privilege for us and a mission of ours. So when the program concluded, we decided we just weren't really done, and we decided to start thinking about building a memorial. And it initially started as very small scale, $150,000 project. It's going to be one little obelisk in a park. And as plans evolved, and we got the sculptor on board, and we got the architect on board, and we realized it had to be about everybody from Michigan. All the servicemen and women who served on the war front, all the men and women and children on the home front who helped, how Michigan became known as the Arsenal of Democracy. So the whole thing has evolved into what has been recognized by the Senate and House of Michigan as the state's official tribute to World War II. So it is a 50-50 tribute to the home front and war front, from a manufacturing and industrial perspective to all the personal commitments that were put forth. So that's how we started the program. I'm going to let Russell Levine, our vice president, step in, and he's going to talk about the main elements of the memorial. And then I will be back in a few minutes with some more.
Thank you, Debbie. My name is Russell Levine. I'm the Vice President of the Michigan World War II Legacy Memorial. So thank you for hosting us tonight. We really appreciate it. I want to spread the word across the state because it's a memorial that is designed for those who contributed across the state. So we started out with a couple of concepts that we wanted to get across with the memorial. As Debbie indicated, we wanted to recognize the contributions that Michigan made both on the home front and the war front. Michigan had a unique role in terms of its manufacturing capability and in terms of what we did in the fields and in the farms as well. So we wanted to be able to highlight that. We also have an educational purpose as well. We want to be able to provide a forum for people to learn about what happened during the war, and we want to provide a place for celebration. It was very important when we talked to our architect that we don't just become what he called a stone mausoleum. We don't want it to be someplace that you just come for a field trip and then you go, that's nice, we went to the memorial. We want it to be someplace where people will come back throughout the seasons and enjoy it and become a place to actually kind of celebrate what it was that people were fighting for. One of our board members accompanied a veteran to Normandy, and they were overlooking the shores, and there was a bunch of kids playing horseback riding and whatnot on the beaches, and there was a family nearby, and the parents told the kids, wow, look how disrespectful that is, I don't want you ever seen doing that, and the veteran walked over and said, no, 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 that's what we fought for, so that people could do it. So we want to carry that concept and that theme over to the memorial itself. So that's very important for us. So you'll see what the memorial looks like up here. It's about 2/3 to 3/4 of an acre, and I'll talk about some of the individual elements in the memorial. So there are really three concepts to the memorial. We like to call it the who, what, and where of the Michigan World War II story. So I'll show you some pictures on this, but essentially we have statues that represent who fought in the war. And each statue has a different theme. There's a land theme, an air theme, and a sea theme. And then within each theme, there's a war front side and a home front side. So, for example, we have a statue scene called Keep 'em Flying, and that's our air scene. And so what we have there is Rosie the Riveter, who was working at the Willow Run bomber plant, making B-24 bombers, working on the skid of a bomber. And on the other side, you'll see two airmen getting ready to take off, presumably in that bomber that she built. And we carry that theme throughout. There's a sea scene. A lot of people we didn't know this, but we learned, are familiar with the story that life jackets used to be made out of kapok, which was a material controlled by the Japanese. Well, the Japanese really weren't supplying us with a lot of kapok during World War II. So we needed to find another place, another substitute for it. And it was discovered that the filament of milkweed pods made an excellent substitute for that. And so across the country, kids would go out in the field and collect milkweed pods, and they would fill up their bags and send them off to a processing plant in Petoskey. Who knew? And they would make them into life jackets, and the saying was 2 bags save 1 life. And so, again, we see the kids picking the milkweed pods, and then the sailor or the Marine or the Coast Guard or whatever, the person from the sea aspect of the military is wearing one of the life jackets. And the last scene we call Mail Call. This highlights several Michigan themes, but the important one here is communications. And then we actually have, there's a soldier reading a letter in the foxhole, a letter. That's a piece of paper where people wrote words on it. And they put it in an envelope, and it went off to sea. It went off, and other people could read it, and then they could see what they said. So it's going to be fast becoming I make a joke about it, but it's fast becoming something that people aren't going to understand. And the importance of mail, I'm sure the veterans here can all speak of that and what it meant. That's how you get news from home. There's a radio in there and so forth as well. And actually, we have a miniature of the soldier downstairs. When you walked in, you might have seen him up. It's bronze, so it'll show you what it'll look like. Yeah, these would be life-size statue. This model we have downstairs is 1/3 scale, just to kind of approximate what it'll be. And here's kind of what you can see the process that we're going through. It's kind of an interesting process where the sculptor will make models out of clay, and they'll go through a casting process. We make them small first, so we kind of figure out how people should be positioned and what they should look like, work out the details, and then they get blown up to life size. So the next component is the what. So what did people do to support the war effort? So if you remember back from the initial picture of the memorial, there's a series of columns. There's 13 columns. 6 of them will have words on it. And these we call pillars. They're pillars. They exemplify both that they are supporting the war effort, and they're also physically pillars. So you have that double meaning there. And they represent different aspects of what people did to support the war. So the first 2 are service, for people that actually served in the military. Sacrifice, to indicate that lives were lost, limbs were lost, people got sick, people got hurt, there were non-battle related injuries, what people did there. The next 2 represent a little bit more of the home front. So we call those, there's labor and industry. So everybody knows about the labor story from the standpoint of manufacturing, building planes, engines, submarine parts. Some of the parts from the submarine out here we learned today were built locally. But also in the fields. There was labor in the fields, and Michigan was a very large agricultural state as well. So there's a large aspect of that we want to represent as well. And of course, industry, Michigan's known as the arsenal of democracy. When FDR wanted to start the war effort, the person that he called was the head of GM and basically said, I need you in Washington now, please. And so he came and started up the war effort. So that's the industrial story. The last 2 are what we call commitment and change. So commitment talks about the changes that people made to their everyday lives. You had to recycle. There was rationing. You had to victory gardens. You would plant a garden in your house, but that would be a victory garden because that was food that you were growing for yourself. So other food that was grown in the industrial part of the economy could be passed off overseas. And then the last component is change, and that's the last one because that represents how we changed to fight the war and how the war changed us. So this represents all the changes that occurred because of the war. Everything from changes in civil rights with what happened with the Tuskegee Airmen, showing what African Americans could do in terms of their capabilities. Also in terms of things like the superhighway system. A lot of people might not know that the reason why Eisenhower was so enamored with putting in the interstate system was because he went to Germany and saw the Autobahn and said, that's pretty cool, I'd like one of those. And so there's that influence. There's the baby boomers. Me, I'm the son of a World War II vet. So after the war, there was all this pent-up demand, if you will, for babies. And so they came along as well. The GI Bill, thousands of people went to college who wouldn't have gone to college before. So all these ways in which the war changed us are represented by that pillar as well. And then the last component is where. So this is where the war was fought, essentially, and won from a Michigan standpoint. So this is the idea here. This is just a representation of selected spots that will be represented in the memorial. There'll be a 30 by 40 foot map of Michigan that you can kind of walk through, and you can go to different spots that either have military, social, or industrial significance. So we've, one close by here was the lake out in Michigan, Lake Michigan, the big body of water down the channel. And what they would do there is they would practice landings on aircraft carriers. So they would have dummy aircraft carriers that people would practice landing on. So there are all these interesting aspects of Michigan's history that a lot of people are aware of and a lot of people aren't aware of. So we want to highlight that as well.
So one of our other large features at the memorial is called the Walk of Honor, and it is a walkway that takes you, there's two different entrances into the memorial. And at each entrance, and then in front of all of the statue scenes that you saw, will be inscribed brick pavers that you can purchase for yourself, for a loved one, any World War II veteran, homefront worker, any veteran in general, really. The memorial itself is very strictly a World War II memorial. The Walk of Honor is meant to really honor anybody. So we have all sorts. I think you might have had brick brochures on your chairs when you walked in. So feel free to add your name to the Walk of Honor. And we've sold hundreds at this point. And to see the veterans' reactions, we've had some of the bricks made, and they're on display at a museum on the east side of Detroit. And we had a big paper preview party last year. And to see the veterans come and look at their bricks, and they brought whole families and 3 generations of their families to see them, because it's very important to them. Many of the veterans that went on the honor flight trips with us will say that the memorial in Washington, D.C. is really beautiful, and that day trip of theirs was one of the best days of their life. However, they just can't wait to see this, because this is their memorial. It'll have their name on it. It's very personal to them. And, we feel we have a sunset clause. We don't have a lot of time to get this built before the people who need to see it can't see it. I think what I failed to mention before is when I said the initial budget for the memorial was $150,000, we're at $3 million now. So it's a very big project. $3 million to build and construct the memorial. We're hoping for an additional $1 million over time for a long-term endowment, for maintenance, programming, events. What Russ also talked about a few minutes ago is how we wanted it to be a place of celebration, and we want it to be very interactive with the community. So the main center area that is the green oval, in the wintertime, that's going to be an ice rink. In the summertime, it'll be a place for concerts and picnics and a place for you to go, kick around a soccer ball with your son. And as he's running to catch the ball, or as he's ice skating by Rosie the Riveter, he can say, "Mom and Dad, who's that?" And it's a teaching opportunity in an environment that makes kids want to come back. I'm gonna digress just for a minute, if you'll indulge me. There's a story. It's a woman, and I do wish I remembered her name, but I don't. She was a history teacher, I think in Arizona, and back in 2008, the new school year was starting. And she had cleared this with the president, or the principal, and the superintendent of the school district. So the kids came into her classroom, and it was empty, no desks. And the kids kind of just walked in and milled around and said, what are we doing? Where do we sit? Where's our desks? And the teacher said, "You'll get your desks when any one of you can tell me what you've done to earn the desk." So the kids raised their hand and said, "Good grades," and she said, "No," and "good behavior," and "No, that's not it." And they kept trying, and hour after hour throughout the school day, this went on. And somehow the media got word of this, and they came to the school, and by the end period of the day, she said, "Okay, I'm going to help you out here, and I'll show you how you earned these desks." So she opened the doorway to her classroom, and in camouflage, all the Army guys came in one by one carrying the desks. And they set up the classroom and put the desks in there, and then the soldiers lined the classroom. And she said, "You guys did nothing to deserve these desks. They fought for you to have these desks." And that's what we believe from World War II, World War I, every battle that has been fought. It's those men and women that we owe a great debt of gratitude, because the freedoms that we all have today are because of them. It's not because of what we've done. It's because of what they have fought for on our behalf. So we are very privileged to be able to do this and to meet them and get to know them and call them family, because that's how they feel to us now. And we do owe them that.
And this is just our contact information. If you have any questions, we can contact us via Facebook. We have a website up there. Yeah, like us on Facebook, please.
All your kids out there on Facebook.
All that computer stuff. Does anybody have any questions?
How come Muskegon's not on that map?
Yeah, it's funny. It's because it's an artist's rendition, and we were talking to Professor Yakes. Is Professor Yakes here? And we got him out. We got an earful. We met with him before the session today because he's a local historian, and we knew we were coming out him, so we got to talk to Professor Yakes to find out why. All the details. So I've got a page full of notes on why Muskegon will be up on that map as well. Any question over here? His name is Larry Halbert, and he's done a lot of public art throughout the area. And he was known by one of our board members, and I think he was trying to remember we recommend. We interviewed about 3 sculptors. So if you're familiar with, he worked at in the Michigan State Fairgrounds, the horse Seabiscuit trained there, and there's a statue of Seabiscuit there. Some people are familiar with that. He did that one as well, but he's done a lot of art in the area. Yes.
Well, thank you. What an oversight on our part. It's in, how many of you are familiar with the Detroit area? And there's a suburb of Detroit called Royal Oak. It's about a half hour north of downtown Detroit. And it's in Royal Oak at a park called Memorial Park. And the city of Royal Oak has been really gracious and donated that portion of the park to us for the memorial. So we've got the state, Senate, and House who have signed off on the project. We've got the mayor, the city council, and the Parks and Recreation Department of Royal Oak who have all signed off on the plans and are really looking forward to it becoming part of their community.
And I'll just point out the name of the park is Memorial Park, and it was actually dedicated as a World War II memorial. They never built a memorial after the war. There's a grove of trees with a flagpole. Looks like that's where the memorial should go, so we're going to put it there. There's a question over here.
Could you please spell the last name of the sculpture?
Yes, it's Halbert. I didn't realize that spelling counted today.
There's so many different
Understood.
spellings of Halbert.
Yep.
Absolutely. And his first name is Larry.
Thank you.
Yeah. He's actually pictured on that collage right over there. You can take a look later. When you first enter the memorial, that curved granite wall is right there. It's about 50 feet wide by about 10 feet tall. And on the outside portion of it will be our signage and the name of the memorial and whatnot. On the inside is what we call our version of what you see in Washington, D.C., the Wall of Stars. So it'll be a bunch of gold stars. And for anyone in the room who may not know about the Gold Star story, during World War II, if you had a child in the war, you were known as a Blue Star Mom. And if your child passed away, you would often have a flag in your window that had a blue star on it. And if your child passed away, the blue star became a gold star, and you were then a Gold Star Mom. So it will be, we've got, I think, don't quote me on this, but it's just under 20,000 lives lost from Michigan. It's 19,700 and something. So we will have a certain number of stars representing each life lost represented. So when you're looking at each of the statue scenes, the backdrop will be that wall of stars. Any other questions?
You talked about being recognized by the state of Michigan. What does that entail, the legislature, and what's that about?
We went through a process for a good portion of 2012, actually, working with Senator John Papageorge out of Troy and Representative Jim Townsend out of Royal Oak. And they worked us through the process of getting a formal resolution passed. So it's Senate Resolution 13, House Resolution 20, where it has been officially recognized as the state's tribute to World War II.
What's your time schedule to start this, or has it started already?
As soon as we get $3 million. We would love to break ground tomorrow. It's all about fundraising, so we don't have an answer for that. What we do know is once we break ground, it's a 6-month construction time. So we're anxious to get going.
Yeah, Yeah, and we've taken a lot of steps already so that we can make that 6-month cycle work very quickly. So we've gone ahead and done some studies on the actual site itself to make sure that it's suitable for the structures that we're building. We've got the architectural drawings done. We've engaged a builder. We're ready to go. We're shovel ready. So the idea is we're negotiating contracts. Anything that we can do ahead of time, we've done. And the other stuff, based on fundings, and as we get more money, we've started the sculpture process with the sculptor as well. So we're getting going. We don't want to really put the shovel in the ground until we know we can finish.
The statues that you see in the photograph, Russ said earlier, we've started with the third scale, what we call maquettes. The low clay versions are about 22 inches high. He actually has, of the 9 of them, probably 6 of them are framed out and welded together for the life-size versions, and some of them are 1 or 2 steps beyond that. So it's a very fun process for us, watching him at his studio move from little wire renditions to the clay to the life-size, and just watching the process of how it happens.
You said $3 million is your goal. Where are we in $2 million?
Well, we're not giving away that number yet, because we need a lot more. We need a whole lot more. So what we're always asking everybody is to help us network. The best thing you can do is talk about it and get the word out. There's a lot of people that know about this. There's a lot of people that don't. We need individuals who want to help us contribute. We want companies and corporations who were either involved in the war effort then and might still want to help with the war memorial effort now, or just any company in general that wants to help support this kind of a project. So if any of you work for companies that you think might want to help, please talk to them, call us. Any individuals you know, just help spread the word. It's the best way to do the fundraising beyond us just out there, trying to directly work with the corporations.
Do other states in the United States do something like this? Do you get any inspiration from them, or are you leading the way, or what?
I like to think we're leading the way. I don't honestly know the answer to the question of how many other states have their own World War II memorial that's designated as this. There's a lot of states and a lot of memorials even throughout Michigan that are veterans memorials. There is no memorial in Michigan that even remotely compares to this, to the scale of it, to the message we're trying to send with this. So I like to think we're being trailblazers.
And the other thing about the memorial is that it's unique from the standpoint that it's the home front and the war front. So a lot of the memorials that we've seen up to now have been either the war front, that's what they are, and that's fine, and we like to recognize that. We like to think that it really took, it's one of the things about World War II. We find that if you're not standing up because you were in World War II, your grandfather was, your uncle was, your grandmother, in fact, everybody worked in the war, and we want to recognize what that entailed and how everybody had to pull together in order to really achieve victory.
So last June we had the opportunity of, we were presenters and speakers at, you all know the term Rosie the Riveter, right? So there's a National Rosie the Riveter Association. We didn't know about that, but once we learned about it, we found out that coincidentally their yearly conference was being held last June at the Dearborn Inn, which is close to us. So they signed us up to be presenters and talk about the memorial. And so we took that opportunity to have some of the World War II veterans come with us. And we had this wonderful opportunity of a photo op with the Rosies and the veterans together 70 years later. And I hope it's not too small, but there's a classic photo that we took from that event, because this is the memorial. It's the home front and the war front right there. And there's another one. But it was a real treat, and that's what, these are the folks, that's what it's all about right there.
Other questions?
Anyone else?
I have just one more question.
Sure.
You say what all these industries and all these outside people contribute. Is there going to be someplace where they're going to be recognized?
So inside the main grounds, where you can kind of see there's 3 steps that go down into the main grassy area. On the upper riser of that top step is where the names will be inscribed of the larger donors. We've got the enlisted level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it's the top 3 tiers. They get their names put directly at the memorial, etched in the stone on the riser there. Anyone in the enlisted level, which starts at $100 or above, is listed on our website as a sponsor for the memorial. Well, we could be asked why we didn't do it a million different places, but one of the main reasons is that land at Memorial Park was dedicated as a World War II park. We are in Royal Oak, so it works that the group of us who is taking up this charge, it's right there. It's on. No, it's all right.
Another interesting story about the memorial is the trees that surround it. Yeah, I'm going to say the trees that surround it. There's an actual tree called the Royal Oak tree. There are oak trees, but there's actually one tree that's the Royal Oak tree, and it's in England. And England donated acorns to the city of Royal Oak. What was that? 1938. We got to tell the story.
It was back in the 1600s. The King of England was fleeing from an oncoming army, and he took refuge in an oak tree. And legend has it that saved his life. So that singular tree has always been known as the Royal Oak tree. So in 1938, when they learned about our town of Royal Oak, they donated acorns from that singular Royal Oak tree. They were taken to the Detroit Zoo, where they grew for 10 years. Once World War II was done and over, in 1948, a couple of years after the end of the war, they planted them in Memorial Park in that circular design, put the flagpole, and said, this is where we're going to build a World War II park memorial. And they just never built the memorial. So it just seemed like a really natural place for us to put the memorial.
I was raised in Girls Point.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a good question, and honestly, it could go anywhere in the state, but that's the chosen place, and those are the reasons why. You know, we've got the Woodward Dream Cruise that comes there every year. There's 1 million people who go up and down that thoroughfare, and it's just a big...
It's accessible.
It's accessible, population density in the Detroit area, lots of those reasons. So that's it. Thank you so much for coming and letting us be a part of your evening. We appreciate your time, and we hope you enjoyed learning about the memorial.